Any other comments?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Rudy Peden, 154 Sleepy Creek Drive, Dudley, North Carolina, 919-731-7589. I have a little bit different issue to bring before you this morning. It's of a national nature. We have a POW in Afghanistan. His name is Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. We need to keep him in our thoughts and our prayers. We think right now that he is being held in Afghanistan. That may have changed. He may be in Pakistan. But wherever he is, he needs to be brought home. Several months ago, Mr. Malcolm Wright wrote an editorial to the News Argus. I have not spoken with Mr. Wright, but if he sees this publication, this showing at any time, I want him to know that we have not forgotten Sergeant Bergdahl. That was his concern. So where are we today? Well, right now, in our State Department, they are supposed to be working with the international community to try to get Sergeant Bergdahl released. Apparently, there has been an offer from the Al-Qaeda of 5 detainees from Gitmo, Cuba, for Sergeant Bergdahl. We don't know where that is, and we probably have no need to know because that's in the upper echelons of our government. But we need to make sure they keep working it. And hopefully this will continue to work at our State Department level. We need to keep Sergeant Bergdahl's name before our state and national representatives. So what can we do now? I want to share the last paragraph, and I do need these to do that, of Mr. Wright's editorial. He says, I ask you, will you care? Will we put Bo and his family on our prayer list at home in church? Will we demand the media make Sergeant Bo Bergdahl a famous name? Will we continue or will we contact our representatives demanding that Sergeant Bergdahl be returned home? Will we call the White House and demand that we don't leave Afghanistan before Sergeant Bergdahl is brought home? Will we all fight to see Sergeant Bergdahl on a plane cheering like the POWs returning from Vietnam so long ago? Some of you remember that. There wasn't a lot to cheer about for those veterans, but that was a happy day when we got them home. In case you haven't seen it, there's a picture of the young man we're talking about. His family has received a letter through the American Red Cross, and apparently he is in good health, and we hope and pray that he is. So what can we do? Contact your congressman, your senators on the state and national level. If you haven't been praying, start praying. If you have been praying, keep on praying. Commissioners, what I ask you to do today is to support this issue any way that you can. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for yours, Mr. Peden.
My name is Robert Geis. I live at 191 Hereford Drive, Dudley, North Carolina. And you need my telephone number? It's 919-735-4758. And I am with the VFW.
Was that Dice or Heiss?
Pardon?
Was that Mr. Heiss or Dice?
Geis.
Geis.
G-U-Y-S-E.
Thank you, Mr. Geis.
And when I took this project on, you noticed that I turned pretty good people that got helping me. And what we need now is we need your support. We need our state support. We need people to call our congressmen and our senators. And we want to get on national TV and because we want to tell everybody. When I started out doing this, I called every state representative of both Congress and Senate. 90% of the people did not know about Bo. They know about him now. But we need to keep this up, keep the pressure up so we can get him out because we've been told the military is not going to intervene, and so it's going to be our Congress to get him out. And we need for y'all to help us. And if any way you can get us on national TV, on Channel 5, so we can get more people to know and that they can vote, I mean, not vote, but they can call their congressman, and using their cell phone is one of the best ways to do it. And thank you, and bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Geis. We're close. Channel 14 is here, is that correct? Affiliate of WRAL in Raleigh, is that? That's not correct.
Same market.
Same market, okay. Thank you, Mr. Geis, but you're making motion, positive motion. Thank you so much for all you're doing.
Tom Drew, P.O. Box 587, Goldsboro, North Carolina 27533. Court of Public Opinion is now in session. Lately, been feeling like a monkey in the middle between Mother Nature and human nature. And not trying to make monkeys out of the news artists. They're doing a fine enough job themselves. So as a peace officer, make sure they're well fed. I sure would appreciate if someone on this board would carry them a couple crates of bananas. I'd be most obliged. What Monkey Business Day and News Earth been up to is a little bit of focus here. Two saving graces of the News Argus is Nat Henkoff's column most every Thursday as a constitutional scholar, and David Schreibman, editor of Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And he addresses a lot of undercurrents of American history and world history that needs to be understood, other perspectives. News Observer, July 3rd. Day title, A Vast NSA Spying Database, question mark. A lot of concern about privacy of speech. I'm most concerned about public speech. David Sharpman, he said, as far as the security and private speech, this database, seldom has a debate. This is 624. Seldom has a debate that seemed to be suited to the philosophies been thrust quite so swiftly into the public square. I need to contact him and find out where this public square is that he refers to. When media usurps the market square to the illusion that they're meeting the needs of public address, that question needs to be explored with him. June 16th, News Argus, fire on board. Y'all know who's speaking. This is a News Argus column unsigned. Speaking of the Wayne County Commissioners, they did not really complete a rigorous vetting of their skills. They do not have the experience or knowledge base to run a county. Here, the News Argus would be the ones who would be doing assisting in the vetting. When they shut down a forum that would secure the vetting process, they become party to a dysfunctional electoral due process. As they say, if you can't ask them a question before the election, forget it afterwards. The email to y'all yesterday was an open letter sent July 3rd to Representative John R. Bell, the 4th. During a break at the last meeting, I present him a pop quiz to see if he understood democracy. He said, email it to me, which I addressed an email. That gives him time to review it, study it, and answer it, so his ability to think on his feet was not secure. But too long to read right here. I ain't got no reply from him. Coup d'etats. A lot in paper about them lately, Egypt and all, and big concern I've been researching is the status July 1st of the ability to impeach a president in Egypt. Did that knowledge exist? And what was the education of democracy in Egypt at that time of responding to dysfunctional representation? Dysfunctional electoral due process produces dysfunctional representation, and dysfunctional representation produces dereliction of duty And the impeachment process should be the process to appropriately and peacefully replace unduly elected leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Drew.
And this question, is there an impeachment process for county commissioners? They need it.
Thank you, sir.
I will be researching that question.
Any others? Commissioner Bell.
Mr. Chairman, a lot of people looking at my name tag. I'm not the Bill that he's talking about.
Bill or Bill the Fourth.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell, for making that clear. Any other comments from the public? If not, the public comment section now is closed. Get on to county manager's report. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. Got a couple of quick items. First item, there's been some discussion by the board, and a number of you have had a lot of meetings as board members. You're well aware of the Highway 70 economic study that is being conducted basically along the entire corridor, and a supplemental agreement has been reached with NCDOT and the subcontractor for $100,000 to do the similar study, and this is the actual amendment we'll need, for $100,000. And I want to let you know this is not costing the county any dollars. Their federal funds and state funds will be paying the $100,000, so we will have to, if you agree today, this will actually do the study of the entire 795 corridor from Wilson to I-40. And that's something we've been looking at for some time to look at along with, and obviously it was a good opportunity because of Cambridge being here and their subcontractors. So that has been negotiated with the NCDOT. So I'm asking for two things. I'm asking for a motion to approve the $100,000. This is accepting a revenue and then committing to an expenditure to NCDOT and the contractor for the impact study on 795, and also giving the authority to the chair to sign the supplemental agreement with NCDOT to conduct this study.
Board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Daughtery.
I move we accept the budget amendment and that we also authorize the chairman to sign that agreement.
Motion's on the floor to accept this agreement. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Daughtery.
this is a good start on the way to finally getting the completion of I-795. We were pleased to see that these funds were made available on the state level to provide the funding for the economic study, and I greatly applaud all those that were involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daughtery. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those in favor of the motion? Thank you.
I'm using all personnel today. I'm going to get, if you would give, I have two media here, if you would give them one of each of these. And three, okay, I'm sorry. I'll take care of the here. Media, you said? Media. Channel 14. Well, I knew I made 20 for a reason. Mr. Chairman, this is the project of the design build for Steele Memorial Library, and this is to the county commissioners and the facilities committee, particularly to Chairman Mayo, for myself and the staff. It's a recommendation for the commissioners, reference the Mount Olive Library. I want to go through these. I think it's important that we outline this process. Mr. Mayo has been in a lot of discussion with the staff over the last few weeks, and we've had some meetings with the staff on the subject. So I just thought it was important to kind of walk through these steps as Mr. Mayo and I discussed yesterday. One, design build RFQs for the Steele Memorial Library received by the county on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2013, and we qualified those. Next, following design teams submitted RFQ responses and were interviewed by the county staff. This included my office, T.A. Loving, MHA Works, Group 3, Darren Ure, Bordeaux Construction Height Associates, Hudson Brothers, Brennan Architects, Barnhill Contracting, there's a typo, SFL&A, Daniels & Daniels with Dunn & Dalton, and Jackson Builders Smith Engineering. Remember, when you take design build, you have a team that comes to you of architects, engineers, and contractor together. They team, and that's what the statute says. We received those properly. We then asked them to come in on Tuesday, July 9th, and present to the staff. All did present to the staff. We took a look at various information, including the thoroughness of their presentation, background information, and the typed information, written information given to us. And we used, to some degree, not entirely, the Facilities Committee will be using this more, but we used some modified version, but not in this detail that you'll be using, of the evaluation worksheet that the three members of the design or the facilities team or committee will be using. So at this time, the staff and my office are recommending that the Wayne County Facilities Committee Chairman, Mr. Mayo, call a meeting on Tuesday, July 23rd, 2013 at 8 a.m. in this room to hear presentations by the recommended finalists, and they are T.A. Loving, MHA Works, Bordeaux Construction Height Associates, Hudson Brothers, Brennan Architects, Daniels & Daniels, Dunn & Dalton, Jackson Builders, Smith Engineering. The Facilities Committee, as our recommendation, will hear the presentations by each group. About 45 minutes is what we gave when we did ours, or whatever time is needed up to that point, utilizing the county evaluation worksheet, and present one finalist to the Wayne County Board of Commissioners at their regular meeting on August 6th, Tuesday, August 6th, 2013. The Board of Commissioners at that time, Mr. Chairman, may then consider any approval or other items of a contract with recommended groups at that time with the assistance of the staff and the county attorney, of course. Once a group has been chosen and appropriate documents have been executed, the chosen group will meet with the County Facilities Committee and or the county staff to review timeframes, next steps, etc. That is also the time period in which the Facilities Committee, under the advisement of the Board of Commissioners, will begin to discuss the budget, because whoever is chosen will then bid their sub-jobs out. And all made a commitment to do that with pricing of 3 or more, and they will price, and our hopes is obviously to get that square footage prices as low as we can while getting a good quality product. The staff, Mr. Chairman, is prepared to answer any questions the board may have at this time concerning the matter, and look forward to a successful design build. We've had one successful in Wayne County, and we expect this will be too. And so far, it's been a good process. So I would, Mr. Chairman, really be asking Mr. Mayo to call that meeting as chairman of the Facilities Committee and see if there's any questions for you at this time. And I did give you the sheets that would be used by the committee.
Mr. Chairman. Any questions from the board? Commissioner Mayo.
Yes, been a lot of time and effort put into getting this far, but we're making great progress. I just wanted to let the people here and on TV and radio know that the Facilities Committee is myself, Chairman Steve King, and Commissioner Wayne Aycock is on the Facilities Committee. And we have really had a learning experience, but it has been it's been a spirit of cooperation, of being one, moving forward, having a goal. All of us are really looking forward to seeing some brick and mortar take place at the Steele Memorial Library. As facilities chairman, I would like to recommend that and adopt the meeting for Tuesday, July 23rd, and subsequent schedule after that. As far as Tuesday, August 6th, I recommend that we set this as our schedule and to move forward as facilities chairman.
in form of a motion?
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay.
You do not, no, you don't need a motion.
No.
Just as Chair of Facilities Committee, we're taking it that you're officially calling the meeting and we'll advertise as such.
Okay.
Do not need a motion.
No, sir.
Okay,
I think so.
all right.
I can ask the other two facilities members,
Yeah.
do you have any problem with this schedule? Do you want?
Not today, I don't know about tomorrow.
Okay, all right, we're good.
Mr. Smith, any other reports?
No, sir, not this time. Thank you for the Facilities Committee working with us on this. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir. And I appreciate your staff moving as diligently as they have
Yes, sir.
to move this project forward. There's a lot of anxious people, of course, as we know, throughout the county that want this to happen. And there's never been a wrench in it. It's just the process, and this is just part of it.
Exactly.
And I commend you and your staff for doing that.
Staff has done a great job. Thank
Yes,
you,
they
Mr.
have.
Chairman.
Next item on the agenda, we have a presentation here and special guest for the Volunteer Fire Department survey.
Yes, sir.
And
I'm
Mr.
asked
Smith, I'll let
Joe
you-
Gurley if he'd come up and present our guest at this time.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
With us this morning is Mr. Bill Genoway. Mr. Genoway is a consultant with VFIS. VFIS and Wayne County Fire Departments has a long, rich tradition. We valued their input, and some 2 years ago, it was asked of VFIS to come in and do an evaluation assessment of all the volunteer fire departments in Wayne County. That assessment evaluation has been conducted, and I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Genoway to give you a presentation this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gorley. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and members of the public, it's a pleasure to come to Goldsboro again. It's been a treat to come down here a number of times now and enjoy the culture here and enjoy the community and all of the members of the fire and EMS community. I would first like to comment on what I believe has been an exceptional working relationship with the entire fire and EMS system here in Wayne County. Whatever we have asked in the way of information, meetings, communication has occurred, and at any point in time when you're conducting an evaluation or a survey or an assessment, it is the willingness of the participants that makes or breaks the end product. And in this case, I would again like to compliment them for their participation. I'd also like to compliment the board for a couple of reasons. Number one, to have me here today to discuss this. These types of issues, fire protection issues, particularly with volunteer fire departments, are what I will call fragile issues, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. They can sometimes be challenging, and being an elected official myself in my community, I understand it because I oversee the fire, EMS, and law enforcement community in my community, and I understand how fragile it can be. So recognizing that your willingness to have me here to talk about some of these issues, I think is a commending to you for your foresight. I always like to sit in these types of meetings and hear everything else that goes on. And what I heard today were a couple of comments. I heard process several times. I heard comprehensive plans a couple of times. I heard plan several times. And I think what I'm getting a sense of is that this group is planning for the future of Wayne County. And that's partly what this document will help you achieve long term. It's a planning tool. It doesn't mean that everything that's in it will get implemented. Doesn't mean that everything that's in there is perfect. But as you well know from hiring consultants, the objective of a consultant as a third-party disinterested individual is to give you an objective opinion of what they believe are the appropriate tools, techniques, processes, plans, and so on that your community should be looking to implement in the future. Doesn't mean you can't modify them, doesn't mean that you can't toss them aside in favor of something different, but it's an objective opinion. It's our approach and the belief of what you hired us for to put issues on the table. And that's what we've attempted to do in this. They may not be popular issues, but they are issues that need to be discussed, and in all probability are being discussed somewhere by someone, but not being brought forward. Now, with that, I also have to say that we commend the fire departments and the EMS service in your county. their performance, the lack of public negative comment and complaint is a tribute to the service that they provide on a regular basis to the people of your community. So for that, they need to be commended. The second thing is that if you were to replace the current volunteer system with a fully career system, the projected cost based upon a national model would suggest that you're saving roughly $20 million a year by the use of the current system. That would be in recurring operating costs. So the current system provides you dollar value, the current system provides you a performance value, and they need to be acknowledged for that service that they provide. However, looking forward, which is really what this plan does, it looks forward to try and build for you a plan that will meet the changing expectations of the general public, the changing expectations of government, and the changing expectations of the organizations themselves. So, with that, we were hired to evaluate the financial operations, the field operations, and some planning issues. As we looked at all of these issues and tried to do an evaluation, it is clear that we found things in Wayne County that were no different than things that we find elsewhere. And we spent a lot of time in North Carolina doing similar types of projects. What we're finding is that there is a changing landscape, and this is what I meant about that fragile environment of the volunteer fire system. People, money, leadership, and service expectations are all driving changes in public safety. Why? Well, money is getting tighter. That's no secret. People are becoming scarcer, either new people coming into the system or the ability to retain the existing people. And that's partially because of leadership. It's partially because people don't have the time they did in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when many of your organizations were established. It's not a new phenomena or just with the fire service, it's with all volunteer type organizations. The fourth piece of this puzzle is service delivery or expectations. Outside forces, whether they are national recognized standards, state expectations, or the expectations of people themselves, are changing what they believe the fire and EMS system should be providing to them. And frankly, the more people you have that move in from outside Wayne County, the different level of expectation will occur, because those people will be expecting a fire and EMS delivery system similar to that from where they moved. And if they are retiring here, or if they are moving here for the military, if they're moving here for employment, they will be more attuned to a delivery system, whether it's Essex County, New Jersey, suburban New York, whether it's Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, suburban Philly, or whether it's suburban Washington, D.C. We've seen that extensively through North Carolina, that the people are looking for a different level of service. So keep that on your radar screen, because as you expand your community, and we've heard this morning about expanded housing potentials, as that happens and new people move in, there will be a different level of service being expected from your organizations. All that being said, we're not suggesting that the county take over the fire departments. In fact, what we're actually suggesting is that after looking at all of these items, the standard of response cover, staffing and training, administrative and standard operating practices, finances, facilities, apparatus and equipment, operations, mutual aid, and response times and locations. After looking at that, we are suggesting that the volunteer system has a long and viable future, but it needs support in a few ways, and it needs some modification to make it stronger to be able to provide those future delivery of services. While there are a number of good practices in place, obviously good performance, long-term planning and more coordination is needed. Again, this is nothing different than we're seeing in other parts of the state and the country, but what tends to happen is that individual organizations function and plan like individual organizations. And you end up with fundamentally stovepipe organizations who are literally looking at producing their own end product for the people that they protect, and doing so with only their perspective in mind. What clearly is the future in long-term planning and public safety is the ability to share services, the ability to have automatic and mutual aid, and this ultimately then provides for a more balanced workload for the volunteers. It provides for a more systematic approach and limitation of liability on the part of both the individual agencies and the county, and provides for the ability for them to better meet those service expectations at the local level. So we first asked the individual departments, what are your issues? And from the handout that's been provided and from the slide that's on the table, there were 7 items that clearly hit the radar screen. The radio system, different operations by different fire departments, recruitment and retention, funding. The Firemen's Association should be engaged with and serve as the body to oversee change, support and input from the Fire Marshal's office, and why do this study? Well, why do the study, I think, is a long-term planning tool. Again, doesn't matter whether you implement everything in the planning process that we suggested. It's to put the issue on the table, have a constructive debate about it, and take action as action may be needed. Now, one key point, the Firemen's Association's involvement. It is clear that as an elected official, you have your hands into a lot of different things. You have roles, responsibilities on a lot of different fronts. You don't have the time, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the expertise to be able to mire yourself in these issues. So you need to have, I believe, 2 different mechanisms to be able to handle the long-term planning implementation. One is clearly with the Office of Emergency Services. They hold a major key because they are available 24/7 to implement good quality practices that will help the general public and help the county. On the other hand, the Firemen's Association has the technical and the personnel to be able to take the different things that need to be done, figure out the right way that they need to be implemented to get them done at the local level. So our experience, again, has been when you provide the oversight from the county level or some upper level, if you will, and you provide the workload performance requirements by a group from those who will do the work, that the work is done more efficiently, more timely, more cost efficiently, and it gets done with a better consensus and in a more timely fashion. So that's why we have in our recommendations the joint activities between the Office of Emergency Services and the Firemen's Association. So, recommendations and comments are intended for the creation of a discussion, controversial, even if negative, to work toward an enhancement of the system. As I said earlier, sometimes the recommendations bring conflict. That's okay. Because if the conflict gets you to a better endpoint over a period of time, that's what you're looking for. And I can tell you that anytime we do a study, there is something that comes up that creates some kind of a question, a challenge, a conflict, then it has to be worked through. Many times the recommendations are modified. Our recommendations are taken and they get modified to something that's more implementable in that local environment. One thing that is critically needed, and again showing on the screen, is what I will call a mission statement. And it's important for all of the organizations to work toward one ultimate mission. Why? Because without that mission or idea of what you want to achieve as an organization, that stovepipe mentality or stovepipe environment becomes even stronger. And to understand that it is the mission of all the agencies to work for their communities, but together for the county. Why? Because in today's world, no longer can single agencies solve all of their own individual problems. Whether it's personnel, financial, response timeliness, they need other agencies. Automatic aid or mutual aid has taken hold here, and it will take even greater hold in the future. The Insurance Services Office is recognizing this now, as an implementable tool that works, and as a result will become more viable as time goes on. So you need to have that common mission so that everybody understands this is what we're working for, working toward as individuals and as a group. This gets to a standard of cover. The standard of cover helps meet those service expectations, and in doing so will better focus individuals on the mission of the group rather than on individual activities, and again allows you to better long-term plan finances, as well as service delivery. We provided for you a 5-year strategic planning tool. Each year has specific recommendations that we believe can be accomplished in that 12-month cycle, and it is designed so that each can be assigned to a group, whether it's the Office of Emergency Services, whether it's the Firemen's Association, whether it's some subgroup, but those are designed so that you can identify the issues, work on the issues. If you need to modify it, that's okay. But it's designed to be a structure for you to work from to move the process along. Many times we find, and the reason we do it this way, is that we used to make just recommendations and give those to clients. But a few years back, we found that clients would take the recommendations and they wouldn't understand the priority. This helps to prioritize the key points, helps to balance workloads, and helps to get you to an end game. So what are some next steps for you to consider? Is to conduct some local reviews following this presentation. I will be meeting tonight with the Firemen's Association to chat with this about them. Second considerations, there are clearly some issues for the county attorney, the county manager, finance director, OES director, county fire chiefs to work on. One of the things that we've seen extensively in North Carolina is rewriting of service contracts. And yours hasn't been rewritten for some time. It needs to be rewritten. Anytime public monies are used by volunteer fire departments, there is an expectation that certain things happen with that money, and that's why the contracts need to be a little bit tighter. Again, nothing different for you. It's just something that we believe needs to be done at this time. The plan calls for adjustments over the next 12 to 60 months, and those would take place at the discretion of the group based upon how they believe things are progressing or things are changing within the county. Before I enter into questions and comments, there is one item that I just wanted to make a comment on. When we approached this, we did this with 4 assumptions in mind. The 4 assumptions were, first, that there would be a volunteer system going forward to meet the needs of fire protection in the county. We clearly heard when we did the first round of interviews that there was a fear of county takeover and volunteers would no longer be available to provide service. And that clearly was not the intent of our study and is not the intent of our recommendations, as you've seen. The goal here was to keep this a volunteer system as long as possible, as long as viable. The second item was, there was a question about, that was raised, are there opportunities for consolidation of services, consolidation of equipment, consolidation of staffing, and so on. In the world of fire protection today around the country, consolidations, mergers, shared services are a buzzword. They take a variety of forms. They take the form of, and I'm going across the country, they range from hostile takeovers to gentle mergers. The key is to look at locales and determine what's appropriate for a locale. Typically, where the recommendations have been made for consolidations here, they deal with organizations that have smaller staffing models, they have smaller budgets, they have less equipment, and by their nature have almost an opportunity to say, look, there's a better management model available, look at it and see if it works. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, fine. But the idea here was to put, and there are 6 opportunities that we've identified for different types of potential sharing of services, sharing of administrative tasks, and so on that we believe need to be looked at. The next point was that we use national consensus standards and best practices to establish the baselines that we evaluated the fire departments on. We looked and compared the fire departments to similar type communities based upon population and demographics. We looked at those to see whether or not there was appropriate staffing models, to see whether or not there was appropriate scenarios for equipment changes and so on, and those are found within the report as well. The last item was that we used current best practices that exist from the variety of organizations that establish best practices in fire protection to try and build the future for Wayne County. There is nothing that we're recommending that we believe to be excessive modeling or excessive planning activities. They are what we believe would be appropriate for the nature of county that you have. And by that I mean the types of businesses that you have, the types of community that you operate within, your locale, and so on. So with that, gentlemen, I again thank you for the time to be here today. Again, commend you, the members of the OES and the members of the local fire and EMS community for the work that they do in providing protection to Wayne County.
Thank you, Mr. Genoway. Any questions for Mr. Genoway? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Any others wish to speak from the group that Mr. Genoway is with? As you know, this has come before us before as to make payment, a balance of approximately 20. Mr. Smith, what's the approximate balance of the payment?
$22,500.
Of $22,500 to pay this survey group.
Yes.
And so that's why we're here today, is to hear this and move forward. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Aycock.
are you asking for a motion to pay the bill or to make comments on Mr. Genoway's presentation?
It's just the pleasure of the board. I'm just bringing the board up to date.
I make a motion that we take care of the outstanding debt that we owe VFIS at appropriate time for payment. And also, I would like to thank Mr. Genoway for coming today and presenting this. As you know, the previous board asked for this survey, and now it's on our plate. I think this survey has got a lot of good information in it. I think it can be very useful for the Firemen Association and for the county to take this information. It's a good reference source, good information, and I make a motion that we take this information and present it to the Firemen Association and to OES and move forward with it and use it for the betterment of Wayne County.
The motion's on the floor that we pay the outstanding bill of $22,500. Want to make sure, Commissioner Aycock, I understand your full motion. You got into the $22,500 and then you moved on. So would you, for clarity, please, just your motion, please? I understood the $22,000.
Well, I guess I made two motions.
Yes.
I made a motion to pay the outstanding debt and also to take this information and use it for the betterment of Wayne County.
And the motion's on the floor by Commissioner Aycock to pay the $22,500 owed and to use this information for the betterment of Wayne County. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, just let me write this down for a second. Commissioner Mayo.
Just as a matter of clarity, in talking to the fire chiefs up in my district and around the county, I see a majority that in this survey, and of course this is a normal reaction, there's things in this survey that they like, that they see that can be implemented, and there's things that there's going to be a rub if it's tried to be implemented. So from a commissioner standpoint, in my district and what I see from the fire chiefs, I would like to amend Commissioner Aycock's for clarity his motion. I agree with the paying the $22,500. We need to do that, but I want to make a an amendment to his motion stating that the Commissioner Board does not accept the content of the survey because Commissioner Aycock has already said that the Farmers Association will be, the document will be turned over to them for implementation or whatever. They can either use part of it or not use any of it. Or they can put it on the shelf and let it stay for 30 years. It's up to the Farmers Association Executive Board, in conjunction with the county commissioners. So I just make an amendment to that for clarity, that the commission board not accept the content of the survey.
There's an amendment on the floor by Commissioner Mayo that we do not accept that we pay the $22,500, but not accept the content as explained. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Aycock.
I thought I made it very clear that we take this information in the county and the Farm Association unit, use it. I did not say accept this document. I said take this information and let the Farm Association and the county use it. It was not in my motion to accept this information.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mayo.
It's just for clarity only. I agree with Commissioner Aycock's motion. It was just for my own clarity to make sure that the county, the citizens, the fire chiefs, everybody knows where I stand as a commissioner for my district. So it's just for a matter of clarity is all.
Commissioner Bell.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we just vote to pay the bill, and then we can get together later and talk about what's in the report and handle that at a different time, or turn it over to who we need to turn it. I don't think we need a motion on that, really.
Any other discussion on the amendments?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Daughtery.
Mr. Controversy here speaking. Sometimes it's good to have open discussion. And I have reviewed the report and recognize that it is somewhat, it does bring about some controversy. But I would ask that the Firemen's Association take this report, glean through it, find ways to improve fire protection in Wayne County. I think that's the purpose of the report. So I would hope that they can find ways to go through, even though controversial, to find compromise and find ways to make improvements. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Aycock.
I'm going to stand by making a motion that we pay the bill for this information. I'm going to withdraw my motion that we take this information and use it then.
Okay, you're withdrawing your motion, and I understand, or we understand, that you want to pay the bill, but you withdraw the second part of the motion. In discussion on the amendment, since the amendment was made to your motion, you wish, Mr. Mayo, to adjust your amendment, or stand by your amendment as presented?
I stand by my amendment as presented.
Okay, would you please state your motion once more, please, for clarity?
I agree with Commissioner Aycock's original motion to pay the bill of $22,500, but my amendment would be that, for clarity, that the Commission Board not to accept the content of the survey.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Cromartie.
I would like to just first, not to make any amendments or anything, I want to ask a question.
Thank you.
If I understood this correctly, the gentleman that made the presentation said that he was going out to meet with the Firemen's Association. Rather than us use language like we're not going to do this, so we're going to do that, I wish we would pick some middle ground that said that after the presentations were made to the Firemen Association, that sort of follow up on what Mr. Bell said, we set a time that that gentleman will come back and share a discussion with us again and the chiefs. I don't want us to have paid the amount of dollars that we're talking about and have it in language that might suggest we're never going to use it. So let's do this step by step, plan by plan. We don't want to say absolutely or not one way or the other. Let's pick us a middle ground.
Mr. Chairman, might I address the board?
Mr. Kamara, wait 1 second, sir.
Yes, I yield to the gentleman.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that your comments here are not uncommon. Many times there are concerns because of local issues that arise that members of the board don't want to adopt it and move it forward. I think you have a couple of options here that are viable, which simply say, we'll do point A today, and we will take the document under advisement for potential future action. Or we'll take the document under advisement and be done with it. That is a common end product that we have whenever we do these presentations. I just want to add that.
Thank you, Mr. General. Any other discussion on the amendment?
One comment.
Mr. Chairman, do I need?
Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pate, Commissioner Pate, and Commissioner Bell.
I think we're getting in semantics here, because I think that both Mr. Adcock and Mr. Mayo are saying the same thing. We just want to pay the bill and put this in the hands of the fire association, the fire chiefs, and let them decide what's best, because they're the experts. I'm not. So I'm not sure how to vote on this, because I think they're saying the same thing.
Okay, we are. Commissioner Bell?
The only reason why I'm disagreeing with Mr. Mayo, because he made a comment that we will not accept. I don't think we'll not, to me, that's the wrong statement to make. Unless I need to make an amendment to the amendment.
You certainly can.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
But I'm just trying to think about how we can get away or get around this, just go ahead and pay the bills, as I said before, and then we get to the second part later. I think Mr. Doherty kind of alluded to that also, really.
Okay. Commissioner Mayo.
The reason for the amendment, no matter what we do, it's the survey is going to end up with the Firemen's Association, period. So what I'm saying is that we're going to work with them on this survey, but the reason that I do not want to accept it as a commissioner for District 1 is because of the reasons I just stated. There's too much controversy in there that fire chiefs don't like, and so therefore I want to take a middle ground here, because whether this is implemented or not, it's going to be up to the Firemen's Association anyway. But I will withdraw my amendment, Mr. Chairman, and let's just go ahead and vote on paying the bill, okay?
Amendment's been withdrawn. The motion on the floor now is that we pay the $22,500. Any discussion? The amendment being withdrawn, we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. General, for coming today and making a presentation. Next item of business. Emergency Services Cost Recovery Ordinance for the County of Wayne. Mr. Smith.
I think Mr. Aycock or from OES is going to do
Both.
Okay, so you guys.
Mr. Chairman, if you allow me, I'll ask our staff to come forward.
Yes, sir.
Soon after the past election, Mr. Aycock came to our staff, and one of his goals was to have a emergency service cost recovery ordinance put together and come before you. Mr. Aycock did the majority of the legwork first, brought it to our staff. Brian and Blair and Mel did the majority of the work and review. And with Mr. Aycock's approval this morning, I'm going to ask our staff to comment a couple of important factors for extended stay on responses and what the main objectives are for the cost recovery ordinance. And Mr. Acock, if you want to go ahead and do anything before they get up here, that's fine, but I'll ask you to let Blair and Brian and Mel comment.
And just go ahead and let them come up and kind of go over it. We've already had the public hearing on this. But just for clarification, your staff would go over it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, Mr. Acock, for you and the floor. The cost recovery ordinance, as was discussed again at the public hearing, as the public came to speak of it and the commissioners reviewed it, it's still, there's been no changes made to it. It's the same copy that was used during the public hearing. The intent of the cost recovery ordinance is not to charge for residential fires. It's not to charge for routine emergencies. It's to charge and recover costs for the fire departments and other emergency services organizations that may be involved in an extended scene time event, that may be involved in incidents that require numerous days on scene, that require massive amounts of equipment, and that may damage or render some of their equipment inusable, such as contamination and those kind of things, which would create an undue hardship on those emergency services organizations, fire departments to be specific. I think the other key thing to mention here, and it's outlined in the ordinance, is none of these services would be billable under the event of a state or federally declared disaster. As well as a committee, if approved as you have it in front of you now, a committee would be used to evaluate the charges before the billing was actually done, and the billing would at that point and from here on out be done by the individual fire department. The county approving this ordinance gives them that leeway that was currently not present. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. A.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Daugherty, Commissioner.
I think the only concern that I had, and I want to make sure that that's addressed, and that everyone is going to be treated equally, and that there's not going to be any special, the ordinance would not allow any special arrangements to be made to one person versus another. And I would hope you'd address that.
Yes, sir. The ordinance that you're approving, or as you approved it today, and I may ask Mr. Parker to chime in, is just authorizing those agencies to bill. The decision to send a bill to an individual or a company or whomever would be determined by the fire chief, the incident commander, not the county of Wayne. So they would have to bring that information to the committee that's outlined in the ordinance, and then the committee would make a recommendation after that. So if the fire chief or the incident commander did not initiate that, then we would never be
So
aware.
the fire chief would make his recommendation to the committee would have to acknowledge that or disapprove that
Yes.
based upon that.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have, well, we'll do it in a row. Three, Commissioner Acock, Commissioner Pate, and you also all raise your hand at the same time, Commissioner Cromartie.
And just to clarify a little bit also, without this resolution, and we've already had several instances in the county, that there was extended time involved in some accidents. Without this resolution, the individual fire department can bill for it now, but without this resolution, the insurance companies do not have to pay. With this resolution, it'll make it a whole lot easier to recoup some of this expense, and it's going to actually take burden off of the individual taxpayers in a district. Because if you're on an incident now and you have to replace a lot of equipment, stay on it for hours and days, the equipment's got to be replaced. It's got to be funded, and right now the taxpayers in that district is taking the blunt of the whole load. This way, it will free some of the responsibility for them, so the insurance carrier or company that is responsible. And in insurance companies and in policies has it written in for such as this, but without this resolution in Wayne County, our fire departments and with sheriff department, all emergency agencies in the county's hands are kind of tied on whether they will get any funds or not. Thank you.
Commissioner Pate. Thank you. And he asked and spoke to a lot of what I was going to ask about, but we're not blazing a new path here. This is not uncommon around the state. These ordinances are in place, so just want everybody to understand that. It's just, we're not just the first ones to come out and do this.
That is correct, Mr. Pate. Actually, we have several counties around us. I know Pender County, New Hanover County, Johnston County. So we actually modeled some of our wording from their actual ordinances that were given to us by Mr. Jay Howell, who travels across the state with VFIS. So it's certainly not reinventing the wheel. That's correct.
Thank you.
And not blazing any new trails. I remember that.
Commissioner Cromartie.
I have maybe three different little pieces I want to ask you or share with you, or just for us to consider. I want to, right this minute, we don't have that in place, so if you spend extra time out there, and I heard it said that the local individual fire areas are bearing the brunt of any extra time.
Yes.
And the individuals in that particular fire district are the ones that's paying the tax, the extra fire tax or whatever, how we just, to be able to cover that.
Yes, sir.
Here's where that's what I'm getting to. Let's just have a hypothetical situation that one of those accidents happen involving a vendor in our county. Truck turns over, it's got gas on it, you're all gonna be out there a while. I'm looking to make sure that we don't potentially harm persons who are already in that district who would have an accident of some kind, and then they've been paying their share of the taxes, but then when an incident happens, they've got to go out on their own and get the money back from the insurance company, or may have to bear the brunt of that by themselves. And I guess what I'm getting at overall is that we operate as a county to pay taxes, to share with each other the good and the bad. I'm just looking down the road that someone could get caught in a place where they would be could potentially ruin their company if they didn't have the full backing of the county and all, who they've been paying taxes into, expecting to get these kind of services. I'm just a little bit surprised that, and maybe I'm just out there on some limb that whatever, but I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't heard from businesses that transport gasoline throughout the county, people who have businesses in the county who transport things that could cause such a situation. Now, I was just sitting here, and this just dawned on me just a minute, Mr. Steve sitting over there, but I attended at their invitation, I attended a Mobile Home Association meeting last night. And I heard them talk about the kind of expenses they have if they should have to take apart a mobile home. Now, I'm just going down the road on this little ways. Back when my hair was jet black and I was about 22, I used to transport mobile homes from out at Robbins, North Carolina. And I needed the money and I was kind of green, so I would do stuff. Anyway, if I should have had an accident and got in one of those 70-foot mansion homes that got away from me out there, I can just kind of see where I might, if we'd have something like this in place, and surely just a little small wrecker couldn't come and got me out. Somebody could have been there for 6-8 hours. And so I just want us to make sure that as we get ready to maybe vote on this in put such a policy in place that we don't put something in place that will call back on one individual when those individuals out there, and they don't know who they are right now because it hasn't happened to them yet, might get caught in a situation where they are left holding the bag by themselves when all along they had been paying taxes thinking they were going to be covered by the greater group. And then because Mr. Daugherty, I believe, asked a question that I think was up on my mind. Who's going to be making the decision? And there's going to be some standard in place that will cause everybody to sort of make the decision the same way. One person in one county might get a different decision than somebody else based just upon human nature. So as we look at the recommendations that came with this big report, and we sit around the table and talk about it, and this vote decision is finally made, I want to feel comfortable that an individual business is not going to get caught out there in the middle by themselves. The decision made as to who will get a letter sent to them, or who will get billed and who won't. And those are the issues that is uppermost on my mind right now. Not the biggest concern is not us getting a recovery fee. It's how we may affect our public out there by making a decision that on the surface. I know it looks good on the surface, but I'm talking about that fellow out there who might get caught out there in the middle by himself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I call for a vote on the resolution.
Calling for a vote on the resolution.
There's a motion has not been made to.
For discussion.
Okay, well, I make a motion, we accept this resolution.
Okay, the motion's been made that we accept this resolution. Any discussion?
Ordinance.
I'm sorry,
Ordinance.
it's not a resolution, it's an ordinance.
Ordinance.
I apologize. That we approve or we accept the ordinance as presented. Any discussion?
Effective, is there an effective date? I'm just
Not yet.
asking.
When it's over, it's approved.
Okay.
Any discussion? I have a question to whoever put this together, and I understand there were several that they got together and put this together. Under section 402, where it's ordinance review committee. Page 5.
Yes, sir.
I have some concern here with section 402 and would like to amend the motion to accept this ordinance by taking section 402 and put it in under further study. And not be a part of this ordinance as presented. That's the amendment to the motion. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Daugherty.
if we remove section 402, are we removing the committee that would authorize the billing?
The commander of the event is the one that authorizes the billing.
He submits that to a committee who the committee meets, and the committee then authorizes the billing to be taking place.
No, sir.
No, that is not the case. That was my understanding in my first question.
No, the commander of the event is the one that authorizes the billing and actually does the billing,
So he does not submit that over to a committee?
not as it's written. And not as it's currently written, nor as, and it certainly wouldn't if that's deleted completely.
Mr. Chairman, in view of
Mr. Daugherty.
some conflicting matters here, I would ask that we table this and bring it back for further discussion at a later time.
Make a motion that we table it.
Yes.
Any discussion on the motion that we table it? Commissioner Aycock?
This was presented to this board several weeks ago. We had the public hearing on it, and now all of a sudden, everybody wants to step up to the plate and change it. I do not understand where y'all are coming from. There's been a lot of time and effort put into this, and very disrespectful to me for all of this to come up today, and everyone was aware of it. That's all I've got to say.
Any other discussion? Well, for clarity, Mr. Doddard, for clarity, since I have brought this up, I want to, make perfectly clear that I understand this perfectly, crystal clear. I've studied the survey that Mr. Genoway extensively, and when the term fire commissioner is in quotations, then I understand that the way that the survey had defined fire commissioner and the way that we have defined fire commissioner, no disrespect, Commissioner Aycock, that the way that this county commission for the last 12 to 15 years has defined fire commissioner, when I became chairman, I wanted, because of Commissioner Aycock's 50 years of knowledge within the system, fire system, to be the liaison or commissioner that represents this commission to bring back anything concerning EMS, whether it be 911, Wayne Net, or EMS, or the fire departments. And he has done that with a lot of hours. So if you have taken this as disrespect, I respectfully would ask that you not do that because I have questioned Section 42 without discussion, but now that you have brought that up, I would like to discuss this for a moment. And then I will get to Mr. Daugherty because he's asked to be recognized. But having a fire commissioner not well defined by this board, and having the Director of Emergency Services, who is an employee of the county, who answers to the county manager, who answers to the board, and a representative of the Wayne County Firemen's Association, when in fact it could be any representative of the association, and it doesn't state whether it's an officer, a trustee, a chief, the president, board member, chairman. It just says a representative from the Wayne County Firemen's Association. Any member that is a member of the fire department is a member of the association. Am I not correct? Yes, sir. Okay. So it could be someone who is, no disrespect, but 19 years old and has been on the fire department for 8 months. So my concern also is that there are only 3. Was I misquoted?
I just wanted to clarify on the Firemen's Association. You're a member if you're a paying member, so you have to pay to be a member. I just want to clarify that.
But you can be 19 years old and 8 months in service and pay to be a member. Okay.
That's correct.
And my other part is that the chairman of the commissioners does appoint, as I have appointed Commissioner Aycock. But the chairman of the commission also changes naturally in this county year to year to year. And without representation of that individual on this committee may somewhat be of a concern to the commission and to the people of the county. And also the municipality representation, because they pay county taxes too. And we have a lot of municipalities in Wayne County, and are they too? Can they be represented? So my question is just 3 to be enough? Could it be 5? Is this committee important enough? Could it be, would 7 be too many? So as the number one, disrespect, I apologize for that. And but that's why I called for it, to accept that you've done a great job. The staff and who's worked on this done a great job, and I've read it thoroughly. But I've just got questions as we sit here and thought through this for the last 45 minutes, that when this committee gets together, and it's an ordinance, and it's a review of the ordinance that the commissioners set, then is there full representation to make the right decision? That was my discussion. Mr. Daugherty.
I apologize, Commissioner Aycock, if in any way you've taken offense with that. I just felt like that we need further discussion in regards to that, in that I had asked, to begin with, whether or not there'd be any favoritism shown. And my understanding was that the ordinance was designed in such a way as the fire chief would make his recommendation to a committee, and the committee then would decide whether to approve or not to approve. And I had no problem with that, but then we're now told that that's not necessarily so. So I think there needs to be further discussion on this ordinance before we actually vote on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's on the floor. Since it's the last motion to be made, will be voted on first.
Motion that is to table.
Yes. And that motion is to table. So we will vote on that. Any discussion, any further discussion?
I do have a question.
Commissioner Pate.
I would ask council, is this part of this ordinance not clear or legal in your opinion? I'm speaking section 4.
If you are asking me, is that in there to be able to overrule the chief, that it is not in there for that purpose?
What would be the purpose then?
For people to be able to get together to determine any changes that needed to be made to the ordinance.
So they would be serving more as an advisory committee more than anything else to the chief?
Not necessarily. I mean, they would not have the power as it's currently drafted to tell the chief he could not send a bill to somebody that he wanted to send the bill to.
Well, that's what I meant. But it would not, having it in there would not hinder the, like you just said, the billing process to go forward.
That's right. If you want them to have that responsibility, then it would need to be changed.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I would just like to
Commissioner
ask Mr. Daugherty, is that what you had in mind that, because I think I'm agreeing with you that if you have a committee that this is forwarded to, and that committee can discuss it and make a decision to go ahead and charge it, then we would have a better chance of having a more objective, or at least a spread it out.
Yeah, that was my
Spread it out
understanding.
decision of who gets charged and then
Well, there'd be a little bit of a check and balance.
well, it
That's all I'm
relieves
saying.
some of my concern that everybody would get sort of the same breadth of this thing across the county. So I'm agreeing with that. I just want to make sure that what Mr. Daugherty had in mind, because that's what I felt like
Okay. Any other discussion?
Just one more thing.
Commissioner
I
Pate.
agree with the entire concept of this, but now that I'm hearing all this talk about this particular section, it's sort of, I'd like to see it tweaked just a little bit, and no offense, but, because I didn't quite understand it myself, and I just got to be quite honest about it. But I think we can make some changes in 402 and come back here and pass this thing with no problem.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to table this, which will be brought up at the next meeting, is that correct? Or,
If that's what you choose.
okay, to table, do you have a date?
It'll be a good time to do it, because I won't be here.
To bring it up at our second meeting?
You can just say future meeting and then
At a future meeting.
just say future meeting.
Okay, table it till a future meeting. All those, okay, the motion is to table this until till a future meeting. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? It's 5-2. Can we take a 5-minute break, please? And then when we